You're looking live at the National Transportation Safety Board investigation into Alaska Airlines Flight 1282. Some crew testimony already has outlined the chaos and the panic that day, 16,000 feet in the air as the door plug blew off an Alaska Airlines flight. Happened in January. Today's testimony will focus on the production of the aircraft. It's a Boeing 737 MAX 9 airplane. Witnesses testifying some of the production processes are problematic. Take a listen.
That is one of the biggest problems that we have faced over the last 5-6 years, is this ambiguous terms that are being used within the quality management system that are being applied in ways differently depending on who it is that's reading the documentation.
All right, for more on this, I'd like to welcome in NewsNation travel editor Peter Greenberg. Peter, welcome to you. I'm glad they're going to be talking about two things that the investigators say are issues here. One is distrust within Boeing, and the other is the FAA's role. Let's start with distrust within the company and the manufacturing process.
Well, the NTSB does great work here in investigating the cause or the probable cause of any transportation accident, and this is deemed an accident even though no one died. What they're looking at right now, as you mentioned, is the actual installation work that was done by their outsourced contractor, Spirit, the inspection work that was supposed to have been done and may not have been done, and then, of course, the role of the FAA as a regulator in making sure that the inspection work was done. There's an additional thing they're going to be looking at in the day to come, and that is the role that Alaska Airlines may have played. Did the airline receive pressure warning alerts in the cockpit about that particular aircraft a day or two before and still make the decision that the plane was qualified to fly? That's another issue. Remember, no plane accident ever happens for any one reason. It's a combination of reasons, and that's what the NTSB is doing. One more thing, Marni, before I go back to you, and that's this. The NTSB is not a regulatory agency. They're an investigative agency, and they're going to make a recommendation once they determine the probable cause as to what needs to be done. Then it falls upon the FAA to actually act on that, and that's the key here.
And what has the FAA, Peter, done in the past when called to do so, to take action and hold these airlines and these manufacturers accountable?
And that's the cultural problem we have with the FAA, how they define their relationship with either manufacturers or operators. And in the past, the FAA has sort of slow-walked a lot of problems that they could have fixed. Interesting note here, the NTSB every year publishes their 10 most wanted list of urgent safety recommendations they've made to regulatory agencies, including the FAA, that have not been acted upon. So we're going to see what happens here, because the evidence here is overwhelming that the installation work was substandard, the inspection work may not have even occurred, and the FAA did not do proper oversight.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what the NTSB chair said about the safety culture? She said, quote, "It needs a lot of work."
It does. First of all, you cannot have the manufacturer inspect their own work. That's absurd. And that's been going on for decades. Number two, you have to have somebody on the assembly line who doesn't work for that company to make sure the installation work is done properly. Not to mention that the plane needs to be inspected on all systems, but the actual installation work needs to be done. And then at the airline level, if you have a problem with a plane and then you elect to still operate the plane thinking it's not a problem, that has to be addressed as well.
What are some of the most significant revelations, Peter, that have come from the hearing so far in day one of testimony, in your opinion?
The fact that Boeing's language in terms of their instructions to their maintenance people, to their installation people, and even to their inspection people were vague at best and were designed to not streamline the process, but to defer it because they were so focused on getting planes into production and out of the assembly line. That is not a good idea.
One thing we were talking in the commercial break about, each time we board a plane, I now look at what kind of plane I'm getting on. I happen to glance when I'm getting on the plane at the bolts, not in the door plug that is in question here, but when you exit and enter the plane. What happened with other planes as a result of this incident in terms of checks and balances and to rebuild confidence as each one of us flies?
Well, let's not forget that this particular aircraft type was grounded before this door panel ever blew out because of what happened to the two planes back in 2018 and 2019 that crashed and killed 346 people. I will tell you this. I fly on Boeing 737 MAXs all the time now. I happen to believe it's a safe plane, and the statistics prove that. The question is not whether or not our aviation system is safe. The question is, can we maintain it? And based on the evidence presented in these hearings and other instances in terms of Congress, the answer is we have a challenge in maintaining that safety culture, and that's what needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.